Come on in, Clark County. It's Rob Anderson with Reform Clark County, and this week we're going to be taking another look at the mess of a situation that the incoming Clark County prosecuting attorney has put her office in. Also, we'll be looking at Charter Review Commission because 10 amendments will be decided on if they should be moved to the November ballot for people to decide. But before we do, hit the like button, the share, and get the word out. Help others be engaged in their backyard in Clark County. And also support the show, support the efforts so that we can get the word out even more, continue digging into these issues here in Clark County. And you could do that by going to givesendgo.com, put in Reform Clark County, and there you will see the way to either support monthly on a recurring basis or one-time generous support. So I appreciate it. So turning now to the Clark County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, the future prosecuting attorney, Laurel Smith, who will replace Tony Golick in January, unless something really wild occurs because she's unopposed, revealed, and I helped break this story, revealed that she started dating a lead investigator, which has really kind of caused pause and concern about the prosecution of this case. Why? Because she wasn't just dating any person or just some investigator. She was started to date the lead investigator that actually filed the probable cause affidavit in which she made the decision to prosecute on. So, and then also on May 20th, she would examine Sergeant Dewey, the lead investigator, on the stand because he led the investigation against Stephen Ward. Now, let's talk about this case a little bit because it's very disturbing. And I think it really adds to the fact of why this is kind of a big deal. Because in situations like this case with Stephen Ward, who was a security guard at one time, and while he was being investigated and arrested, he was a security guard at the Clark County Courthouse, and it turns out that there was significant evidence of child sex abuse and other evidences that very, very disturbing, over 50 counts against him. And so this is one of those cases that has multiple victims, families, children. This is a kind of a case that you want to prosecute by the book, cross every T, dot every I, and that's what you owe to those victims and families. That's the minimum that we can see is bring about justice in a swift and professional manner. Unfortunately, Laurel Smith decided to start dating the lead investigator during this prosecution. In fact, Stephen Ward was arrested in, I believe it was March of 2025, or maybe it was February, but early 2025. And this case had gone on to the point where just May 20th of this year, she examined the lead investigator on the stand under oath because he filed the probable cause affidavit, because he led the investigation, because he interrogated him. So she had him on the stand, and it was Laurel Smith asking the questions in the court. And then just really a couple weeks later, June 2nd, she indicated in this court filing that she started dating the lead investigator. Then later on, about a week later, she indicated that she was switching the prosecutors. And then it wasn't until June 18th that she let it be known that she started dating him on June 2nd. So this really causes this case to screech kind of to a halt while there is a hearing on July 8th. There will be a hearing on this motion to disqualify the prosecuting attorney's office. And it will be sorted out and decided if a special prosecutor is needed or if the precautions of recusal and other mechanisms of accountability have been put in are enough to move forward. And I trust that the judge will make that decision properly. What is really concerning is, again, this decision, even putting the fact that she's married aside, which I think is a factor or should be understood here, but putting that aside, so she decided to start dating the lead investigator in the midst of this very disturbing case in prosecuting it. I question that part of it. I question that switching prosecutors midstream because of a personal, romantic, whatever decision. That's not the kind of decision that you want to see from your future prosecuting attorney. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. That is a situation that is troubling. But the $1 million question is this. Did Laurel Smith start dating the lead investigator before June 2nd? In particular, did this relationship happen before filing week? So let me just give you a timeline here. June 2nd is when she says she started dating. However, on early May 4th through 8th, is filing week. And this is an important political week in which she filed for running for prosecuting attorney's office and no one else did. But would that have changed? If she started dating before and that became public before, would that spur someone to run against her? And so there is a political motive here in saying, did she withhold this information to get past filing week and then withhold that information from the defense? Because once she shared that, that would become public. That's the $1 million question that I believe Laurel Smith needs to answer. Not only just answer yes or no, but needs to provide evidence. She should provide personal affidavits. She should provide access to her phone or other kind of communication devices. I mean, this is an important aspect of, if you want trust, you have to earn it in this situation. In this situation, that is the $1 million question. Did this relationship start before filing week? Was it withheld from the public and from the defense for political and personal gain? That is something that I think needs to be addressed and adequately answered for us to really have trust in Laurel Smith going forward as prosecuting attorney. But this hearing will happen July 8th. We'll see what happens there. And also we'll see if there's any more information that comes out. For example, there was a story by Clark County Today, Ken Vance, in which he wrote about this, and Laurel Smith indicated that that she did not feel that there was any compromise in the prosecution and that the measures that were taken are adequate. But we'll be the judge of that, and we'll see if that holds up as time goes on here. So let's switch gears to charter review, one of my favorite topics, even though some people think I'm kind of crazy for it. But Charter Review Commission has a huge meeting July 8th coming up, July 8th, Wednesday at 5 p.m. You need to be there. This is the most important charter review meeting of the year, no doubt. Why? Because 10 amendments will be decided upon if they should move forward to the November ballot. And so now 2020, last charter review, we were in a completely different situation. We were facing very one-sided. Democrats had full control. There was very little, I think that charter amendments are definitely improved when there is opposition and when there is counter views and pros and cons. And I definitely think that since the Charter Review Commission is fairly balanced with a slight edge to Republicans, I think that has helped bring about really good charter amendments that have gone through, scrutiny and have really come through. And now we have 10 charter amendments. Now, in 2020, we had amendments like, DEI office, establishing a DEI office, which would make it permanent, and give it even more authority in Clark County government. A very woke preamble that included a land acknowledgement for the charter, ranked choice voting, and there was many other charter amendments, and it was just all one-sided. So we are in a completely different situation this time, thankfully, in which we have some pretty good charter amendments that are moving forward. But July 8th, 5 p.m., there will be public comment, and you need to get involved and share your voice in this, either by showing up or calling in. I mean, you could submit written, but I think it's best to supply written comments and either show up or call in and give your comments over the air in support of certain charter amendments, which we'll go over. But July 8th, 5 p.m., and you'll have an opportunity to give public comment for either 3 minutes, in which you can talk about all of them, or you will be given an opportunity to give 1-minute statements before each vote of the 10 charter amendments. So either 3 minutes, or you can give 1-minute testimony, public comment for each of the charter amendments that you either support or against. So this is a bit kind of an unusual public comment format. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I think it's all right, but we'll see. I applaud that they're willing to want to hear from the public on these issues. So let's talk about these charter amendments independently, and we'll walk through all 10 of them, and I'll give you my thoughts. So the first one, 2601, clarifying nonpartisan office elections. This was presented, the sponsors, Kathy Garber, Democrat. I don't support this. It sounds kind of good on some levels, but really what this would do is reduce. So if there is a primary where it's just 2 candidates, an incumbent and challenger, or sometimes 2 equal challengers, they would not be on the primary ballot. The only way that they would be on the primary ballot is if there's a third or more candidates. Now, Kathy makes the argument, and some make the argument, that this is going to save $80,000 or some number, which is really based on a high figure. So they went to an election that where this occurrence happened, I guess, more, and came up with that figure. I think that the figure is much lower. Practically, it could be, almost zero. I don't think it would be completely zero. There's going to be situations where you have that, but this figure of 80,000 is definitely speculative, and I don't think that is reflective of what the savings would be year to year in this situation. But here's the problem, or why I'm against this, is because this would then, if you are running, you have 2 election cycles in which you can fundraise for. And do I wish money was not an issue? Yeah, I wish it wasn't a case, but it is. And if this enacted, it would take away the primary election season, which would reduce, instead of $2,400 in a candidate could raise in those 2 election cycles, now they can only raise $1,200. Now, why this is important isn't necessarily that, less money. What it is it's definitely going to be an advantage to incumbent candidates. So incumbent candidates who already hold the office, who've already put together a campaign, who already have donors, they will have a big advantage because they already have a donor base. This won't be as difficult as it would be for newcomers. So people who are running for the first time, I think that this puts them at a disadvantage by not getting their name out, name recognition, and for the voting population to start to get familiar with this candidate and to maybe look into them. Just all of a sudden, boom, they pop up in the November ballot. And I think that that's going to be a huge advantage for incumbents. And so I don't think we should put our thumb on the scale. I'm not sure if that was the intention of Kathy Garver. I don't think so, but that is a real trouble. So the next one, 2607. Housing impact analysis. This was brought forward by John Jay, a Republican. I support this. I support it strongly because this provides better transparency of the policies that are enacted, how they affect the cost of housing. So if you say you're for affordable housing, which Democrats have these signs all throughout Clark County saying support affordable housing, but you watch the vote on this on July 8th, and so far, up to this point, many of the Democrats have not supported this. And I just think that's kind of bananas because this just provides transparency that the policies that are passed by the county council and how they would affect real housing costs. And so that's all that does. I think that that's important because right now, there's talk about affordable housing costs, but the truth is a lot of the policies that are put in play, either climate related or other kind of environmental situation, they have profound impact on housing costs, which has profound impacts on families and their ability to afford housing. So the next charter amendment is 2608, requires supermajority council approval for county taxes by John Jay, a Republican, and I wholeheartedly support this one before, and I still do. This is, raising taxes shouldn't be just easy of a simple majority. Raising taxes, taking your money, moving your money from your pockets to the county coffers, that should be a higher bar. That should not be an easy process. And causing it just by adding one more vote, a two-thirds majority, a supermajority, will maybe give pause to these, when they do over the budget, when they, have to do their supplemental budget because they've spent more money than they've budgeted, which will happen. I'm sure sometime in the near future they'll have a supplemental budget and, giving a big raise to the county manager, spending $400,000 on electric backhoe that can only run 4 hours, and other kind of purchases that make you wonder why they're spending this kind of money. If it's not so easy to go and get more money, maybe it will help tighten those kind of decisions. Plus, I think it's going to add a more bipartisan requirement for raising taxes. I don't think that if, just one party like the Democrats have control mostly of the county council now, I don't think, it'd be great to have bipartisan support in order to raise or take money away from taxpayers. So the next one, 2610, Revised budget transparency process. This is sponsored by Peter Silliman, a Republican. I support this. Better transparency helps the public understand an already really complicated process of the budget. I've watched many years of budgeting process, and it's very difficult to get information. For example, I have inquired about the supplemental budget. I can't get a clear answer from the budget office. I don't know. I'm not going to say that they don't know. I'm assuming that they know what extras that they're spending, that they're adding to this. But right now, as a member of the public, I can't get access to that. It's very difficult to get those kind of numbers, and I think that this budget transparency charter amendment would definitely help in that, and I support. So 2614, performance audits, again by Peter Silliman, Commissioner Peter Silliman, who's running for Clark County Council District 5, a Republican. I support this as well. This gives the People's Branch more tools of accountability for the people's tax dollars. So right now we just have an auditor's office who's really handcuffed to the state requirements, and they have to follow the state issues of audits. And so this would just give another tool to the People's Branch, the council, to issue performance audits of saying, hey, did this money that we approved for this project, did it go there? Did it get the outcomes, the results that we wanted? And I think that power should not just be in the branch that is also executing, so the executive branch. So this would be good, and I support 2614. The next one, 26. Limitations on consecutive terms for county council members. This was brought forward by Brandon Erickson, a Republican. Now, I don't support this because the fact that this doesn't really apply to the executive branch. It's kind of a head scratcher to me. So the executive branch has multiple examples of executive branch members that have won consecutively more than 2 terms, and it really hasn't happened on the council side. So why is this being put out? Now, Brandon says that it's kind of a 2-step measure that, would put this one forward, and then also a possible one for executive branch members the following year in 2027. I think that this is giving medicine to the wrong patient. That's why I don't support this. I believe that this is fixing a problem that's not there in the council. In fact, the council is already kind of a watered-down branch, and this would put more handcuffs on a branch that actually I want to get more power to. I want to help provide, to equal the powers of these 3 branches. You can't do much about the judicial, but you can do something about balancing out the power between the executive and the council. And I just think, if anything, the executive branch, I'm not a big believer in term limits anyways, because I believe that, if the people should not be limited, there shouldn't be some bureaucratic rule, which this is kind of what this would become from the charter, but a bureaucratic rule that would limit the choices for voters. And so if a voter, I trust the voters. And so if the voter thinks that this person is doing a great job, they should get a 3rd term. They should get a 4th term. I'm just not a believer in limiting and taking away choices from voters. And also, I hope that there's no motives here from any of the commissioners where maybe someone wants to run for, county council, and this is a good way to ensure that, someone's not going to be, that they're not going to be in there a long time. I hope that's not the case. If that is the case, if there's any commissioners, Councilor Belcott spoke to the Charter Commission and suggested that if anyone does have the potential of running for county council, I think that they should recuse themselves in this vote. I would agree with that. So the next issue is 2623, revised council powers regarding boards and commissions. Right now, there's only like 3 or 4 commissions or boards that the county council actually gets to appoint people. Right now, most of the boards and commissions, the county manager nominates, and then they just approve that nomination. I believe, if I'm reading this right, and this is brought by Patrick Ataguame, Democrat, his last name, and I would support this, actually. I, again, would help bring power back to the county council. I believe that it should be elected representatives that make these appointments, not just approve them. So actually, I support this. So there you go, Patrick. I know that he watches. 2624, Charter Amendment, require annual report publication by the county manager. I don't really support this because not that I think it's a good idea. I think it was actually a part of the requirements at one time. I think before the charter was enacted, there was a requirement for an annual report by the county manager. Or maybe there is, and it's more, a request or something. But I think that this doesn't have to be a charter fix. I think that the county council could easily just require the county manager to provide an annual report. So I support the idea. I just don't think that the charter is the best solution on this. So we don't really need it as a charter amendment. So next one, 2631, Ethics Review Commission to consist of 5 members instead of current number. Kim Hamlick is the sponsor of this, a Republican. I support that Ethics Commission is in desperate need of reform. I mean, if you've watched my videos and show, you know that I've filed a few ethics commission or ethics complaints, and I think, no doubt, have revealed that it is fatally flawed, that there is no due process in the Ethics Commission. That's a bigger problem than diversity of thought by adding, 5. So I would support, by the way, increasing to 5 people. I think 3 is too small. It's kind of brought it down to its knees and to a screeching halt at times because of only having 3. And I won't go into the details of why, but I do believe that this needs to happen. However, I just don't think it goes far enough. And what I'm concerned about is that there would be ballot fatigue. So when you have multiple times, for example, on initiatives, we've seen 3. In fact, we're going to talk about a 4th, I believe, charter amendment. I think there gets to a point where they become harder and harder to pass because of fatigue. So I do support this concept. I just don't think, for example, going 3 to 5 isn't going to solve the problems. It's going to maybe add diversity of thought to the Ethics Commission, which is needed, but the big thing that's needed is due process and a few other changes, that they don't just narrowly focus on one aspect of H.R. 13 of personal financial gain and ignore all the other things of professionalism and ethics and, honesty and all the other kind of things that they've just kind of, breaking the law. I mean, the Ethics Review Commission has literally ignored if someone has broken the law because there was no financial gain, in them, which is kind of crazy to me. So even though I do support that charter amendment, Ethics Review Commission is in desperate need of reform, I applaud Kim's effort to step into this. However, I just don't think it goes far enough, and so I at this time I wouldn't support it. because of that issue. So, and then 2640, amending the initiative, mini initiative, and referendum process. Kathy Garber, Democrat, I support this. Even though it isn't perfect, I wish that more time allotment was given for signature gathering. It's still a shorter amount of time than, like, for example, what the state allows for the state initiatives that we're seeing, like with the income tax right now. I think that this is doing some good things. I think that it's going to decrease the signature percentages amounts, so the volume of signatures that would be needed. It also, I believe, moves a mini initiative, or a full initiative if it doesn't meet all of the signature requirements. It could meet the needs for mini initiatives, so it could still have some life and demand a hearing, which the Restore Election Confidence Initiative could have done that if this was in play. It could have triggered a hearing at least on these issues, which would, bring some attention to it. So those are the 10 charter amendments that will be considered July 8th. 5 p.m. And you need to please support these charter amendments, the ones that I outline. And if you can, form your opinions on the other ones. Maybe you disagree with me on that, and that's okay. But that's my take on these charter amendments. We definitely want to see, to me, the priority is the supermajority requirement for property tax increase. To me, that is the top amendment that we really want to see on the ballot for voters to decide. But several others of these are very important as well. So July 8th, 5 p.m., prepare either 1 minute for each of the ones that you want to talk about. Now, you got to, you could maybe give 10 minutes of comment if you wanted to give comment on each one of them, or give a 3-minute statement altogether at the beginning. But don't be silent. Don't be disengaged. This is a marathon, this charter review. And just look what's happening up in Pierce County. We could be in a situation like that. Commissioner Holmgren put forward a charter amendment that would move all executive positions from elected to selected. And they were really, the quiet part of this is that they were really targeting the sheriff. They really want the sheriff. Every county statewide, they want to be able to select the sheriff rather than have the people elect the sheriff. And we, if Democrats had full, strong control of the Charter Commission, I have no doubt that would probably be moving forward. We would see ranked choice voting again. There were several of them in their voter pamphlet statement on the campaign trail said that they wanted ranked choice voting. I think that could come back up next year, or for 2028 as well. And so, it's very important that you stay engaged, that you don't just expect other people to do this, but for you to show up or to call in, maybe encourage others to do the same. This July 8th meeting is the most important meeting of the year. It is bigger than any other meeting, and I'm sure there'll be some big ones coming up, but this one is it. This is very important, and always be respectful. Always be thoughtful. Don't just, rattle off kind of insults or whatever, but be thoughtful, be respectful, give good input of support of the ones that I've shared, which is 2601, I don't support that. 2607, I support it. 2608, I support that. 2610, I support that one as well. I support 2614. 2620, I do not support. 2623, I do support that one. 2624, I don't support that. Support the concept, but don't support it that it needs to be a charter amendment. 2631, I don't support this at this time. I think that it just needs more work, more meat, more substance to it. 2640, amending the initiative, mini initiative referendum process. I do support that. So please, of course, make your own decisions, but that's my input. And I hope that you are engaged no matter what, because that's the process. This is very important. Charter review, we've got to get good ones on the ballot for November, and this is where you come in and play a part in that. So that's Reformcast for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, show up July 8th, 5 p.m. at the Charter Review Commission. Give your 3-minute or 1-minute comment on each amendment and be engaged and give your thoughtful, respectful comments to help get these ones that I've outlined supported and on the ballot. So, and if you can support the show, go to givesendgo.com, Reform Clark County, make a donation, help get the word out. And the show is growing, and I'm so thankful for your support. And remember, you are the catalyst of reform with God's help. See you next week.